Good evening, everyone. I'm Sebastian Rizzon, Zen Master Sebastian Rizzon, and today I'm going to be talking to you a little bit about meditation and going through some different meditation techniques. Much of this is derived from my experiences living, studying, and teaching in a Zen Buddhist temple that I lived in for 16 years. Most of the techniques I'll be showing you today are things that I've personally practiced every day for the past 19 years. First, let me start by telling you a little bit about Zen. So Zen is a philosophy that is a practice which uses meditation to try to understand ourselves and the essence of our being and gain a deeper understanding about ourselves. I don't consider Zen to be a religion because it doesn't provide any metaphysical answers. It's a practice which guides you through meditation to find the truth within yourself. There's no requirement that you believe anything specific or follow a certain set of rules, so I think anyone could benefit from using these techniques regardless of their religious background or spiritual beliefs. So today's class will be focused on learning different forms of meditation techniques and guiding you through them. Some of the techniques are part of traditional Zen practice, and others are different techniques which I've found very helpful in my own practice. I'll also take some questions at the end of class, so feel free to stay and ask questions. Before we jump into the guided meditations, I'd like to give you a koan. Koans are a part of Zen practice, and they're usually statements or questions that are meant to challenge you to seek a deeper meaning. So my koan for you today is, what is the essence of your being? Some people call this your soul or spirit. In Zen, we usually call it your heart or your mind. If you want to truly understand yourself, you have to be able to answer the question, what is your mind? This is a big question, and I don't expect you to have an answer right away, but just consider this question as we move into the meditation portion of class. In Zen, we use meditation to help us understand our mind. If you can see your mind, we call that getting enlightenment. While attaining enlightenment can be very difficult and take a long time of dedicated practice to achieve, there are many other benefits you can get from meditating just a little bit every day. In the most basic form of Zen meditation, we sit quietly and focus on a mantra to clear our mind. When your mind is clear, you can think clearly and make better decisions for yourself. When you think clearly and make better decisions, you can take actions which are more beneficial to yourself and the people around you and the world you live in. My teacher would describe this process by saying, a clear mind makes clear thinking and clear action. We can also practice moving meditation. In this practice, we use our actions as our mantra. By completely focusing on whatever you're doing, you can keep your mind from wandering off into the past, the future, or into any other hypothetical situation you could imagine. When your thoughts start to snowball from rolling around in your head, it can lead you to feel stressed, anxious, depressed, or overly emotional. In any of these states, it's hard to make good decisions. If you can completely focus on whatever you're doing, you can keep your extraneous thoughts from interfering with the task at hand. When you're operating like this, you'll be more efficient, productive, and less likely to make mistakes in whatever you're doing. The actions you take will be clear. By staying focused on your actions, you can clear out the irrelevant thoughts and think clearly about what you're doing. If you stay completely focused on what you're doing, you'll clear your mind. In this way, clear actions clear out your thinking and produce a clear mind. It works both ways. A clear mind makes clear thinking and clear action clear action makes clear thinking and a clear mind. So with that said, let's move into practicing some different types of sitting meditation to help us clear our mind. So when we sit today, we'll just, for the most part, you can sit crisscrossed legs. You want your hands, right hand, left hand, touching thumbs, centered in your lap. Try to keep your neck and back straight. If you get uncomfortable in this position, you can switch positions. I just suggest trying to keep a good posture so that you don't, slouch and hurt your back or your neck from sitting for too long. Before we get started with the meditations, let's just practice a breathing technique that can help you relax and prepare your body for meditation. Start by breathing a little bit slower and a little bit deeper than you usually do. Visualize your heart in the center of your chest as you breathe. As you listen to me, I want you to slow down your breath a little bit more and breathe a little bit deeper. Feel your breath coming in through your nose and mouth and collecting all of the energy from your brain and moving it from your head into your heart. Imagine now that you're breathing with your heart. The purpose of this is to try to align our mind, heart, and body. You can also place your hand on your heart and close your eyes if you'd like. Just keep breathing a little bit slower and deeper as I talk. This is a technique that you can use to relax or reset yourself whenever you feel nervous or anxious, or whenever you feel like you need to switch gears from different activities you're doing throughout the day. You can use it when you wake up, before you enter a stressful meeting, before you go to sleep, or before you meditate. So let's just take a few more moments to take some slow and deep breaths. One of the most basic meditation techniques you can use is breathing meditation. In traditional Zen meditation, we usually focus on a mantra. The mantra is typically a word or a phrase that's repeated within your mind that's used to push out all of the other thoughts. In this part of class, we'll use our breath as the focus of our meditation. For this technique, we'll just sit still and quietly count our breaths. During this meditation, try to stay focused on your breath. If you lose count, that's a sign that you've lost your focus. As soon as you have that realization, just start over and start counting again. You can do this technique with your eyes opened or closed. If your eyes are open, your gaze should be towards the floor. So let's practice just counting our breaths for a few minutes. So now we're going to go through a series of meditations which are less traditional but can still add value to your practice. The first meditation is on gratitude. We're just going to take a few minutes to remind ourselves of the reasons that we have to be grateful and give thanks within our mind. For example, I always like to remind myself to be thankful for my health, my family, my friends, and my teachers. The things that you're thankful for could be very general or specific. That's up to you. No matter how bad things get in my life, at times, I always like to remind myself that I still have plenty to be thankful for. This helps me keep a positive perspective and outlook, no matter the circumstances. Now I want you to close your eyes for a few minutes and think about the things in your life that you're thankful and grateful for. If you can't think of a long list of things to be thankful for right now, that's okay. You can just repeat a few things that you're thankful for as if they're your mantra. For the next meditation, I want to focus on forgiveness. It's not always easy to forgive, but it can be an essential part of healing ourselves. Here we're going to take a moment to forgive ourselves and the others in our lives. This is a chance to acknowledge our mistakes and the mistakes of others that have caused us harm and express our forgiveness. This is not to make an excuse for the harm that's been done or the person that caused us harm. It's more to acknowledge that harboring feelings of anger, hatred, and resentment can prevent us from being compassionate, and this can stunt our personal growth. This doesn't mean that you have to welcome someone that's harmed you back into your life, or that you should continue to expose yourself to more harm in any way. It's more about empowering yourself to remove the emotional shackles that the harm may have caused you, so that you can move on from that burden. Let's take a few minutes to forgive ourselves and others for the mistakes and the harm that's been done. Let's also pray that we don't continue to make mistakes which cause unnecessary suffering. Now let's close our eyes for a few minutes and focus on forgiveness. Now let's take a few minutes to focus on affirmations. Affirmations are positive statements or phrases that are repeated in our mind with the intention of fostering a positive mindset. The idea behind affirmations is to reinforce positive thoughts and to motivate ourselves to focus on our strengths, goals, and desired outcomes. The affirmations can be anything that's meaningful to you, but if you need some ideas, some things you can tell yourself are, each breath is a mantra that clears my mind. Each breath connects me to the world around me. My actions are my mantra. My mantra keeps me focused on each moment. I embrace change with a clear mind. I'm liberated from attachment to my thoughts, opinions, and desires. Love and compassion fill my heart and guide my actions. I treat myself and others with kindness and compassion. My destiny is to attain enlightenment. I believe in myself and my ability to stay true to my path. Use your affirmations as a mantra during this meditation. Now, let's take a few minutes to remind ourselves of our intentions and aspirations. Now we're going to focus on our prayers. You can pray for yourself, the world, and the universe. I usually pray for good health, happiness, and success in my endeavors. I also pray for the good health and good fortune of my family, friends, teachers, and enlightenment for everyone in the world. You can pray for a friend or a family member that's sick. You can pray for anything you want. Just be careful what you ask for. When you pray, the air collects your prayers and brings them out into the world, where they gather and create potential. The more you pray, the more you stir the winds of fortune, which will fill the sails for your journey. Now let's take a few minutes to remind ourselves of our prayers. The gratitude and prayer meditations are something I do every day before I bow and chant. Forgiveness is something I focus on whenever I feel anger or resentment. Today, we've planted the seeds which affirm ourselves, our gratitude, our ability to forgive, and our prayers. Now we can move on to the traditional mantra meditation to clear our mind of the extraneous thoughts that grow like weeds. This will allow the seeds that we want to nurture and grow to become the beautiful flowers that we imagine. So, in traditional Zen meditation, a mantra is used to clear the mind. The mantra is the focal point of meditation, usually a word or a phrase that's repeated within your mind. If you try not to think, thoughts will inevitably come into your mind. By focusing on the mantra, you can use it to push out all of the other thoughts. When you meditate on a mantra, try to let go of your feelings, opinions, desire, and ego. As you meditate, only concentrate on your mantra. If any thought comes into your mind, let it pass and return to focusing on your mantra. You can use anything as a mantra during meditation, but I usually suggest using the mantra of koan bosal. Koan bosal. Koan bosal is the name of the bodhisattva of love and compassion in Korean Zen. A bodhisattva is an important teacher in Buddhism. She's often depicted with thousands of eyes and hands, and is said to be able to see the suffering of everyone and help those who call out her name. Using this mantra will bring compassionate energy towards you while you meditate. Drawing compassionate energy towards you is like giving water to your seeds. So now we'll meditate together on a mantra for the next 10 minutes or so. So today we've talked about sitting and moving meditation, as well as breathing, gratitude, forgiveness, affirmations, and prayers. If you learn to incorporate these things into your daily routine, it will help you to improve your mental health and mindset. Another form of meditation that can help you improve your quality of life is exercise. Exercise is another way you can clear your mind by focusing on your actions. It could be anything: running, biking, weightlifting, yoga, or martial arts. I'd recommend doing a form of exercise that you enjoy. Also, it doesn't have to be a hard physical activity. You can switch it up. Some days it could be a gentle recovery exercise like walking. If you can incorporate 15 to 20 minutes a day of exercise, it will help you to maintain your health and help you to learn to focus on your actions. Just going for a walk can be a sacred experience if you pay close attention to everything that's going on around you. If you resist labeling things and try not to attach any thoughts to what you're observing, it can have a profound effect on your experience. Try to ignore the conceptual boundaries that we create through thinking and recognize the experience is an exchange and interaction between everything around you. And your body is participating in this exchange. Try to be aware of everything that's going on around you through all of your senses. This practice can help you develop a heightened awareness and a sense of unity with the world we live in. An artistic practice can also be another form of moving meditation, whether it's painting, drawing, making music, writing, dance, or any other creative process you enjoy or are curious about. If you focus more on cultivating a consistent practice of creating without any expectation of the results, you can learn to tap into a state of mind where the creations flow through you without overthinking. If you engage in an artistic practice on a regular basis, it can enhance your meditation practice and help you learn to apply meditation to different forms of actions that you perform in your life. These forms of sitting and moving meditation that we talked about today will help you learn to focus your mind and keep your mind clear. If you can incorporate just a few of these into your daily routine, it will help you to maintain a clear mind. These are all techniques that I use, and it's a prescription that could be helpful to anyone. When your mind is clear, you let go of your ego, opinions, and desire. These practices can help you to relax and overcome stress, anxiety, and depression. This allows you to get off the roller coaster of feelings, thoughts, and emotions that we sometimes get stuck on. This is a way you can be compassionate to yourself and reduce your own suffering. When you're less focused on your thoughts, you become a better listener to the world and the people around you. When you listen carefully, you can better understand the people and develop an increased sense of empathy and goodwill. When you truly understand other people and you can better relate to their situation, you'll want to show them the same compassion you learn to show yourself. If you can practice these things and learn to expand your meditation practice to include everything you do in your life, your mind will always be clear. This will allow you to recognize the inherent beauty within yourself that is a reflection of everything that surrounds you. I hope these ideas are inspiring and the techniques I discussed are helpful. I'm happy to answer any questions you have about anything, whether it's a meditation technique or anything else. Or if you have any feedback about how the class went, I appreciate that. I haven't done too many of this format of class, so.
I like that you taught us a bunch of different techniques, so things that we can incorporate, like you said, incorporate in our everyday lives, so kind of food for thought.
Yeah, and I do use most of these every day in some fashion, just to remind myself, of the things I have to be thankful for. I believe in the power of prayer too. I think if you put the thoughts out there, whether it's just reinforcing it to yourself so you hear it, or, if there is some, mystical power at play, either way I find it helps.
The gratitude meditation is like a shot of serotonin. When you start to go through the list, you just all of a sudden you feel so happy. And it's amazing.
Yeah, sometimes I think it's easy to just get caught up in all the things that are wrong or you're not accomplishing, or the things you want to do. But I think it's good to remind yourself of what you have. And I've been through some rough times in life, and there's always something I can be thankful for, even if it's just that I'm still alive. So some days the list is a little shorter than others, I guess. But
But when you start, the funny thing is when you start thinking about it, it's kind of like it's like a roller coaster. You just find all of these things to be grateful for that you overlook every day. Just even most tiniest little things.
yeah.
Like the sunshine, for example, the weather, things like that that you don't think about. But when you start to focus on it, you start to find that you have an abundance of things to be grateful for.
Yeah, that's it can be very powerful. And I think it's so easy to forget that kind of stuff as well.
When you're doing that forgiveness meditation, what's going through your head? Or how do you?
I mean, some things are hard to forgive, right? I don't expect it's an easy process. Um, Mostly for me, I'm just trying to release myself from the feeling of being angry or upset about something. Um, yeah, I've had things happen where it was very hard to forgive, and some days they ate at me every day for long periods of time. But what I found is that was also interfering with the things I was trying to accomplish. And so, even though I might not forgive that person, to their face because we don't interact anymore, I forgive them in my heart, you know, and just so I can move on from it, and even if they don't deserve it. Um, I understand that's not easy to do, and I don't expect, um, some people don't seem to ask for forgiveness, and so it's very hard. But I don't think you should necessarily expose yourself to that kind of hurtful interaction again, but it's more for yourself. So for me, what makes it easiest for me to forgive even some of the most hurtful things is just I tend to attribute it to people's ignorance, and that they don't know that they're hurting you, or they don't know how bad they're hurting you, or they don't know that how bad they're spreading suffering around the world. And I think if you look at them through that lens, sometimes you can also see how badly they're suffering, and that they're creating such bad karma. Even if it's not obvious, I mean, I think that will always catch up to them. And if they knew that, they wouldn't do what they were doing, and that to me just indicates some level of ignorance, and that so maybe I just forgive them for their ignorance. And it's different. I understand, like, some things are horrible. It's just like, how do you ever forgive? But I also think holding on to that can be poison to yourself, and it gives that hurtful behavior power over you still, if you let it affect the rest of your life. So the sooner you can let go of that, the better off you'll be for yourself. And so I think that helps me to forgive.
I agree. I tell my clients all the time, because forgiveness is a tough one. I'm a life coach, and I work with women who are survivors of domestic violence. So forgiveness is a big topic. And what I always tell them is, when you don't forgive someone, you're not hurting them, you're hurting yourself. Because they move on, they don't even know you're mad. You're just eating away at yourself. So it's about forgiving for your benefit, like he said, more than anything, to free yourself. Because if you don't forgive, you just keep suffering the same thing over and over in your head. And that's the hardest thing to grasp. So I get it. It's hard.
And
It's really hard.
honestly, yeah, that's like a very extreme situation where, it's hard for me to say, yeah, just forgive, but like it's more for yourself. And I think a lot of people, the hardest person to forgive is themselves. Even in those kind of situations, they feel like somehow responsible, even though they might not be,
They feel like if you forgive, you're overlooking what happened, and it's not about that. It doesn't change what happened. You're not giving them a pass. You're freeing yourself from that chain of continuous pain, because I think that's where people have the hardest time. They're like, well, if I forgive them, then I'm letting them go. I'm letting them off the hook.
That's so real.
Yeah, and it's not really about that. It's about yourself. So that, because once you forgive, you start to heal.
Yeah, and I tried to kind of reflect that sentiment in what I said. I kind of thought about that a while, because I understand just telling people to forgive, when something horrible like that happens. It's very hard, but
You want to, it's just something that's like, how do you? But like, I don't, you don't want to carry it around, like you said. It's, it feels like, how do I get past it? So I
Yeah.
Even like during it, I felt like I had a memory come in, I felt this wave of anger come over me, and I was like, well, let's sit with that for a second. And like right in it, I felt that help, so I like the idea.
Yeah, I think that is probably the most difficult one of all of them for most people.
Yeah.
And but I think it's powerful, and it gives you power, and also you might not even be aware of it. Sometimes you can pass on that trauma to other people, you know, like just carrying a bitterness around, and then you can treat other people with that same bitterness unintentionally, you know, and that could be a form of your own ignorance. Like, you don't intend to hurt people who are innocent bystanders, but sometimes it happens if you carry emotions from one moment into the next, and that's what that could be described as karma in a certain way. You know, you're carrying that into the next moment, and that's one of the reasons we use meditation, is to break that cycle and to break it and to free ourselves from that, so that we can approach each moment with a clear mind, with the right energy and attention, and the right mindset that it deserves, you know, not tainted by some jerk that did something horrible to us, you know, or just even, you know, if you get cut off in traffic sometimes, like, then you go see somebody else, and then you're like unintentionally mean to them because you're carrying something like that into the next moment. So it takes practice, and that's why I incorporated it into this, because I think it's worthwhile. And I know it's not easy to do, and I expect some people will push back against that idea, and but I get it. You know, it's just sometimes it's going to take a long time, but my own personal experience is the sooner you can free yourself, you're like free, and the future becomes wide open. You're not restrained by that pain anymore. So I appreciate you asking the question, and that, you know, that you had a reaction to it, and were able to at least sit with it, if not really, you know.
Thank you both for your wisdom.
Yeah. Any other questions or anything?
Do you post your stuff on YouTube? Like,
Yeah, I will. This will be.
record your lesson and you put it on YouTube?
Yep. I just streamed it, and I'll leave it up. I usually will cut out the meditation parts so that you don't have to sit through that. You could just
But like the lessons.
pause it and meditate it. Yeah, I will definitely leave all of that up. And a lot of times I'll leave the full thing up, but I'll also chop it into little segments, so that kind of like short topics, so that you can go through it a little easier or find something. And I try to make playlists. It becomes like a lot of maintenance, which I don't necessarily keep up with, but that's kind of a goal, is to try to create playlists. Like, if you want to know stuff about your mind, or different forms of meditation, or different philosophical things I get into, I'd love to have more specific playlists for people. That's something I've started to do, but not necessarily keeping up with it regularly. But I do, and I usually take these kind of talks, and I'll chop them up and put a little piece of it out every day. So if you want to follow me on any social media platform, you'll get a little daily dose of this kind of stuff. Yeah, and I think I would really like, I don't know if any of you have practiced meditation. I think you mentioned that you had. I would love to have a guest segment during this where someone else teaches us and me about a different form of meditation.
Do you just do meditation? Do you do like other healing modalities?
Um,
Do you partner with them? Because I was saying I'm a life coach. I do like sound therapy and stuff like that too. So I was wondering if that's something you'd be interested in if you're channel.
Yeah, perhaps. I was kind of thinking, like, I know one of my friends does like a immersive sound meditation, and I was gonna ask him if he wanted to do something. But if you wanted to do that,
Which is
yeah, if you wanted to take a few minutes of one of these and lead us through that, I would love that. I'd love to have exposure and expose other people to that. Maybe you can just, after class, give me a little more of a rundown about it.
I have a business card, and I can take yours and email you. I have a kind of like a sample. It's like 10 minutes of what that kind of feels like.
Great, and then we can just kind of figure out where to put it into the class.
That's really, it's a very powerful way to kind of immerse yourself into meditation.
Yeah, and I come from a background where we always did silent meditation, but I'm very open to exposing people to different types of meditation. I think there's many paths which can lead you to, enlightenment or
Yeah.
relaxation or whatever you're seeking. So I'm definitely open to those kind of things.
I have one more question. In the beginning, you asked us what we think our essence is of
Yeah.
our soul and what we think of thought. And I'm kind of curious if anyone had any revelations about that. Anyone?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how to, sometimes I say mind and people think brain. So that's why I kind of phrase it different ways. Mind, soul, heart, essence of your being.
I was thinking about that when you were asking. I guess for me, I would say love is like the essence, at least is what I think, because we're all born with love, and that just kind of changes over time with our experiences, which kind of connects with the forgiveness and what you were saying about not when you don't forgive, how it affects your life and causes kind of trauma around you and other people, and it kind of relates. Like we're born with this innocence and just full potential. Because I think about my nephew who's like 6 months old, and like he's in love with everything. Everything's beautiful and just like no corruption. And then as time goes on, the different things that we experience kind of make that fade away. And
Yeah, and I think that's one of the main reasons I teach, because I feel like it's a lesson that we're not teaching each other in school. It comes out in the form of like the golden rule or something like that, but like, treat other people the way you want to be treated. But it's not emphasized enough. And I think one of the reasons we have so many problems in the world is because we're not compassionate to each other. And I think compassion is an essential part to being human and to, just for an example, everybody's born and they can't feed themselves. So none of us would be here unless someone chose to show you compassion and give you some food. So in a certain way, you're born and you survived based on a debt of compassion. Someone tried to alleviate your suffering when you cried out, And so none of us would be here without that. And I think we need to remember, like, how we're all suffering in some way still. And the only antidote that I've ever found for that is compassion. And that's like, to me, the action of love. So love is like a feeling in your heart that can be filled with, but helping others that is like one of the purest expressions of that, and helping others to alleviate their suffering. And that is a core
service, right?
Yeah,
Service.
it's a core tenet of Buddhism and Zen, which is a part of that, and it's pretty much what I've dedicated my life to trying to help people understand, is that when you're compassionate to other people, it makes the world a better place. And I think if everybody kept that in mind, regardless of your own religion or your spiritual practices or your politics, I think that actually is a common thread that goes through all of those things. Even the politicians and things you might disagree with, a lot of them think they're helping people. At least on the surface, they say they're trying to help people. But like, I think if we could just focus more on helping people, we would all arrive closer to the same point. And rather than, our differences, just how can we help, So yeah, I think that's, but as far as the mind question, I liked your answer. I think that is very important, and more important than probably anything else I talk about is just learning to be compassionate to each other. But as far as the mind, because you asked about that, that is something I think is I actually think it transcends words. I don't think you can actually, we use the word mind, but I think it transcends what you can actually convey with words. And I think it has to be experienced. And in Zen, where we practice meditation to try to clear our mind completely of all thoughts, feelings, our sense of self, completely clear yourself of that and see what's left.
That makes sense, because thinking is basically the root of suffering.
Absolutely, and that's one of the things one of the first things Buddha started to teach.
Yeah.
And the thinking is also masking what your mind is. You have all these thoughts about it, but they start to come through in feelings, emotions, words, images. All that is making it so you can't actually see what's producing that, right? Where those thoughts are coming from. So that's why we meditate, so you can clear that all out. Then you can actually experience it. And when you put down your sense of self, all of these lines that make your body disappear, because they're basically made up. They serve a purpose to surviving, but really, like, you're connected to everything. The air you breathe is just as important as your heart. If you take that away, you're gonna die too. And that's that's just as important as the blood that's circulating through your body. Same with the water. So when you start to realize how connected you are to everything, then I think it makes sense to be compassionate to everything and everyone, because we're all connected. We're all connected to each other. We're all connected to the universe. And I think that I use the word love a little differently from, I think love means a lot of things to a lot of different people, and some people misuse the word. They say, I love my car, I love my computer. Why is that? Because when you hit the buttons, it does what you want. And that's not really love. That's more like a control. Yeah, so sometimes I think that's why people don't really understand really what love is. My teacher always said you should give love like the sun gives light. It just gives and radiates light and warmth, and it never asks for anything back. It never expects anything back. And that's also very similar to what Buddha said in some of the words that have been attributed to him. But I think of love as the energy of creation. And that's the force that our mind exerts on the universe, because our mind can create through our body. We can create things, and through that creative process, we can create other beings too, with our bodies. But the creative process brings what's in our mind out into reality, so then we can get a reflection of what is in our mind, and that helps us learn about our mind. And that's why I think love is an essential part of that. And it also, when we start to bring those things out into reality, then we realize, oh, I brought this out into reality, and it might resonate with you. And then we realize, oh, somehow internally we have a connection. And that's when we start to have real empathy for each other. And
I think Jesus said it, love is the purest state of being.
yeah. Yeah, so that's a foundational, love and compassion are like foundational to what and what, you know, what I was taught in Zen philosophy and Buddhism. That, yeah, you meditate and you clear your mind, but then you try to keep love in your heart and you try and act with compassion. So, yeah, I appreciate that, but that's how I kind of tie it into the mind as well. Any other questions? I do have a few announcements before we head out. I'm trying to hold this particular class. It'll probably be very similar, but I'm trying to do it like the first Friday or first Thursday of every month, excuse me. So just to kind of get together and remind ourselves of these types of practices and hopefully keep expanding the community as well. I also do another meditation where I give a talk on the third Thursday of every month, same time. That's more just like the mantra meditation, a little bit of breathing, but I give more of a talk about love and the mind and topics like that. And try and give you a little bit more about the philosophy underlying all of this. Mainly just to inspire people to stick with it and stay on the path and treat each other with love and compassion. I also host Zen art and writing groups where we write together. They're just creative groups. I do a little bit of meditation, showing people how to use meditation in the creative process and how to use the creative process as a form of meditation. So I have one for art and one for writing. Those are once a month, and the next one is on, the art group is on the fourth Saturday from 3:30 to 5. And the writing group will be, the next one will be on Sunday, June 16th from 3:30 to 5, which is in a couple weeks, I think. All that's on my website as well, so you can check that out. Or it's also on the meetup group if that's how you found me. And you don't need any prior experience to participate in any of these classes, just curiosity. So let me know if you have any questions about any of that. And yeah, in closing, I do rely solely on donations to support these classes. So if you can afford to make a donation, I definitely appreciate it. There's information on the back table about that if you'd be so kind. And you're all invited to hang out and chat for a little bit if you want to just get to know each other or talk about anything that happened in the meditation, or just want to make a little community space if anybody wants to hang out a little bit longer. And thank you all so much for coming. Really appreciate your questions and your participation.